All right, earlier today in a court filing, former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty to new charges from special counsel Jack Smith that was brought against him last week in regard to the classified documents case. Now, this is different from his not guilty plea in federal court yesterday to charges that Smith brought regarding the 2020 election interference case. Look, to be very honest with you, it's getting hard to keep track of everything that these prosecutors are firing at the former president, especially as the election is getting closer. But the question is, can Americans believe that all of these indictments are just coincidental in regard to their timing? Do we really believe that none of this is politically driven? Well, with me now to discuss this and more is Congressman Matt Rosendale. He serves on the House Committee on Veterans Affairs as well as Natural Resources. He's a member of the House Freedom Caucus. He represents the great state of Montana. Congressman Rosendale, always great to see you. Welcome back to the Washington Watch program.
Thank you so much for having me on, Jody.
Well, it's always our pleasure. All right, so give me your take on these new indictments of the former president.
So you were with us, Jody, when we were there on January of 21, and the president at that time, Trump, had actually offered additional support for Mayor Bowser, for Nancy Pelosi, National Guard troops to help with crowd control. It was simply to help with crowd control because they were anticipating a large gathering of people to come to the Capitol. And Nancy Pelosi rejected the support. Mayor Bowser rejected the support, and what we have yet to get answers to. You and I, we sat there last year when they did all their investigations. What they never did question was, when was Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Bowser given information to say you need to have additional security around the Capitol to make sure that you can have crowd control? Who gave them that information? Why did they deny it? And so now we come to this point and say, why is it that the only person who tried to provide additional security is the one who's being charged with some type of a crime? Meanwhile, the people across our country, they're not deaf, dumb, and blind. They actually have eyes that they can see and ears that they can hear. And so when they look at information coming out that says that our current president has been compromised by China, that his son was compromised by Ukraine and Russians, and that they've received millions and millions of dollars that had been funneled and laundered through these different nations and through their family members. And yet we can't get the Department of Justice to bring a single charge against them. This is wrong. And everybody recognizes that it's wrong, and they're losing confidence in these institutions. And so it's as frustrating for me as a member of Congress to see this going on as well, because all we can continue to do is raise the awareness of the general public, shed light on all these terrible things that were taking place, pre-Biden administration, post-Biden administration, and demand to the Department of Justice that they do something about it. And if they don't, again, it falls back to the power of the purse strings, and that's why I joined with my colleague and your former colleague, Matt Gaetz from Florida, to say, you know something, we're going to introduce legislation to completely defund the Department of Justice's offices of that special counsel for Jack Smith and put an end to this charade.
Well, thank you for you guys leading the charge in this. You know, it's and what you just laid out is, man, it's so vivid in my memory, as you well know. And if there's any two people who really know what took place, it's Nancy Pelosi and Mayor Bowser. But of course, they have been off limits to deal with. Let's go though to Special Counsel Jack Smith himself. What kind of concerns do you have with him? There are also some issues in his background.
There's a clear bias that has been established, not only with Jack Smith, but with the people that he has on his team, if you will, and several of the witnesses that he's dependent upon. And the perception of a prosecutor an investigator has to be crystal clear. Okay. There cannot be any perception, even a perception of any kind of a bias towards or against anyone that they are dealing with. And that just isn't the case here, Jody. And so, again, people are losing confidence in these institutions. And the president is exactly right. This is election interference. Everyone sees it for exactly what it is. And we are concerned. Look, I just spent 5 days traveling around the state of Montana. Fortunately, the Republicans are in charge of the House of Representatives this year. And so when they say we're going to be off in August, I actually know that I was going to be in the state for the entire month. And I have yet to talk to anybody in Montana after traveling around for 5 days to a lot of the state that says, yeah, we really think that President Trump committed some kind of a crime and needs to be prosecuted. Every single person I talk to says, we think that this is an absolute sham, that it is the work of a biased Department of Justice. And when I tell them that I've introduced legislation to defund that segment of the Department of Justice, they assure me that I have their support.
That's tremendous. Well, you know, it's concerning that equal justice under the law seems to be going down a path to where it's nothing more than just a slogan under this administration. And that, I think, is what really is frightening to the American people. We have always respected the rule of law. Lady Justice has always been blindfolded so that the law was the issue, not the individual and not the party. But all of that seems to be changing right now. What are you anticipating in the coming weeks, and what do you think is going to happen? What do you hope is going to happen?
So what I would hope would happen is that we would be able to bring this legislation up. We would be able to pass it through the House of Representatives, and I would urge my colleagues in the United States Senate to support it as well. And then if we have enough outcry from the people across this country, Jody, then we can get this president to sign it into law. There are people on both sides of the aisle that are looking at what is taking place right now and say, you know, if they can take the former president and they can generate this kind of charges out of thin air to keep him from being the nominee, to keep him from winning the presidency again, then what in the world are they able to do to the common man on the street? They easily can pick you up, generate some charges, and have you jailed for an incredible amount of time because you didn't happen to agree with their political policies. And that in this country is absolutely unheard of, and it's fearful. As you said, equal justice under the law, it can't be just a slogan. It has to be a reality.
All right, in just over a minute that we have remaining, your quick input on the Devon Archer interview. Boy, this is tough news on the president.
Yeah, we continue to hear facts, okay, and corroborated information that show that he was part of this family business, this family crime syndicate that was squeezing, there's no other way to put it, that was squeezing businesses and industries across the country and across the globe to make sure that their family was enriched. And that is problematic. I introduced legislation probably 3 months ago. It's called the Stock Act, to keep members of Congress and their families from purchasing individual stocks because they have not only information, delicate information about businesses and industries, but they literally have the ability to influence regulatory and tax climate to affect the value of stocks. And when I came out to the press conference there, I said, you know, when you become a public servant, you have got to make a decision whether you're going to be a public servant or a profiteer. And unfortunately, I think the Biden family has made decisions they're going to be profiteers.
Congressman Matt Rosendale, Montana, you're a great American, great friend. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.